When you speak, when you acknowledge things, when you talk frankly, when you are vulnerable, you allow another person to feel like they have the right to do the same. You give them that strength. You might not feel it at the time, you might feel weak, you might feel vulnerable, but you allow another person to feel okay with what they feel and who they are, and possibly, share their stories too.
Yeah, I suppose like when we're talking about mental health, it's important to differentiate between mental health and mental illnesses, because like we all have mental health, and some people are gonna have mental health struggles, mental illnesses. So I think just even beginning with the education of understanding what mental health is, because as soon as people hear that, it's automatically like a bad thing. Whereas like mental health is a factor of good or bad emotions, you can have a good mental health day, you can have a bad mental health day.
I think still it's a bit of a taboo subject, to be honest. Mental health. If you speak to African people in general, they tend to lean on God, or even the fact that it doesn't affect black people as it would other communities. So I think that's very prevalent in the black community.
When I was younger, when I was like a teenager, I definitely had very severe depression, and then later on anxiety. And so I struggled a lot because I didn't know what it was, didn't have a name for it. And I think it really wasn't something like a topic of discussion at the time, really.
My experience with mental health would be like ups and downs, I suppose, personal things to me. My own personal kind of stress, worry, overthinker, I suppose. I never fitting for once, I wanted to be like all the kids in secondary school. So like I think I lost myself, if you get me, sense of purpose. So that would be my personal stress with mental health.
You don't realize in the moment that you're bullied or you're going through any kind of mental issues, but it's when you leave and you look in hindsight, you realize like the situation was actually pretty toxic and actually affected you in negative ways.
I think it's an area that is seriously overlooked in the black community as a whole. We don't realize the impact of our experiences as black people, how it is impacting our mental health. And because of our perception, especially many of the migrants that came into Ireland, because of our perception of mental health, or rather mental illness, it keeps us from talking about mental health. So I personally feel that being comfortable talking about mental health would help me make people comfortable about talking about mental health, and help people address the seriousness of mental health and how it is limiting us as black people by not talking about it.
There's still a sense of shame for individuals to open up and feel vulnerable and say like, I'm struggling. And I think basically what it comes down to is people are scared of being judged and scared of inadequacy and of being a burden. Because I do think it's a very friendly, compassionate society, and within that, within the empathy levels, that can be overwhelming for a person. For example, they might think about their family and friends and not wanting to burden them with their struggles, rather than kind of, I guess, being able to relate to it in a different way, which is that if you fall over and hurt yourself, it's normal for other people to help you in the medical profession, or like for your family, for example, to bring you food. And it's similar for me, it's a similar concept, but not for everyone. And it's silent. And I think because it's in your brain, in your own mind, it can be hidden. So that's quite dangerous, I think.
Like on social media, when people ask of like my opinions or things to do, this, that, they're like, but like you're the only black activist I know who speaks about mental health. And I'm like, maybe there is others, it's just like very stigmatized, especially in the black community. Like a lot of us are of religious backgrounds,
Oh, it's like so complex. I mean, obviously, there's Catholicism, so there's like inherent shame. I think also, before the Celtic Tiger is a very poor country. So ultimately, when you're economically not quite stable and don't have a lot of resources, that's your main focus. So really, I think I think there are a lot of things kind of stopping people from having a discourse.
So a lot of us would have grown up either Christian or Muslim or any other identity, and it's seen as a sin or a weakness to struggle with your mental health. It's seen as, oh, you haven't gone to church, or you haven't prayed hard enough, or you must have done something bad to be cursed with these issues.
I don't think we as Black people take it seriously and almost look down on people that would openly speak about it or find solutions to help a person that's perhaps going through some form of mental illness.
People are still hesitant with seeing mental health as serious as physical illness, you know. People will be reluctant to take time off when they don't feel great, or when they're having severe anxiety, or feeling depressive, or having depressive moods, or other serious mental health issues. We talk about it, but we don't own the seriousness of it yet in our community in Ireland.
As Black and Irish, or Black and brown people in Ireland, we also carry this other whole set of baggage on top of what just life is. The sense of not fitting in, trying to be like everybody else, not feeling worthy of your own emotions and pain and feelings, you know. Are you sure you felt that way? Was it not your fault? What did you say? What did you do to make somebody say that to you, though? I'm not sure, they were probably having a bit of crack, like, you know? Don't be so sensitive.
Oh, like, you're always bringing race into this, that. And I'm looking at them being like, do I look Black part-time? Like, make it make sense, you know? And it's just like the way I see the world is through, like, Black lens, you know? I've experienced racism since I was younger, medical racism, anti-Blackness, being a dark-skinned Black woman, and so many different things. And it's so frustrating when they say, like, oh, don't bring race into this, because it's like, this is like, I can hide my disabilities, but I can't hide being Black, you know?
You know, I'm born and raised here in Ireland, and my mom's from Wexford, and I didn't really have any influence from my dad. He just wasn't around. So I grew up just like my next door neighbour and everybody at school, but I was always constantly reminded that I wasn't white, or I wasn't Irish. And I think that's tough, because it's the only identity that I know.
You know, like, even the way that I am, like, growing up, like, I've always been told, like, oh, I act white, I sound white, I do white people things, this, that, and it's kind of like, I'm born and raised in Ireland. Like, obviously I'm not gonna have a Nigerian accent. I don't think I have an accent anyway, I don't know. Fast forward to, like, June 2020, when people were talking about, like, Black Lives Matter, like, obviously I support it. But then I was kind of reflecting, like, which Black Lives Matter in Ireland, though? Is it the ones that is seen as more appealing to the society? Is it the ones that, like, you know, dress cool, is popular, skinny, light-skinned, this, that? Because, like, I've always felt like my life never mattered anyway, in general. And then, like, I've always been an outcast in the Black community anyway, up until last year. Like, I've always put effort into trying to connect with the Black community, because, like, obviously community is important and that type of stuff. And obviously, like, people can change from the things that they do and say when they're younger.
So there's so many different types of mental health conditions, and they affect us all individually quite differently. So you can have somebody who seems really happy, who's working really hard, really productive, who's actually suffering a lot. So I definitely think this is something that needs to be addressed. And I think what it comes down to is, if communities are more open and more considered, and don't, I guess, feel like it's a bad thing, but just like when you fall over and break your leg, Like, it's something that's an injury, it's suffering, it's pain, and it's something that we can embrace, discuss, and kind of solve together, if that makes sense.
I've actually had people that I knew, not closely, that have committed suicide, and I think that has woken the perspective in the Black community where I'm from. I'm from County Louth originally, so I guess parents are now open to conversations with their children, perhaps trying to understand them more and understand their perspective and where they're coming from more. And I think, yeah, overall, I think, yeah, we're definitely in the right trajectory. We're moving forward in the right direction.
I think because of the fact that COVID has just happened and so many people, were suffering in that period, there is a lot more openness around it and a lot more compassion. We've got a long way to go because there's still a lot of shame around it also, so don't get me wrong, we're not there yet. But I think there's more discourse about it, and I think people are more conscious of it. And really, really, there's a sense of urgency in wanting to address kind of, I suppose, suicide, depression, many, many things. But we could still do better.
What made me decide to speak about it is that mental illnesses doesn't discriminate, but the help and awareness does, and that I want other people to know that it can affect anybody regardless of your gender, your sex, your age, your religious background, that it's okay to not be okay, and it's definitely okay to ask for help.
Going to actually speak to a therapist is a huge, huge experience for many people. I think I would like to say to the older generation, if you have kids that are struggling, that it's okay for them to talk to a professional mental health practitioner, because the conversation is really about the individual's experience, and how they are experiencing their world and their life. It's not telling stories or revealing secrets. It's about how the person is experiencing their own life. And so I would say, allow your children to have these conversations. And I don't think there is a secret big enough to protect that's more important than the life of your child. I think the life of our kids is so much more important that there's nothing that they can reveal in a space that is seriously covered by confidentiality and privacy policies, that people are not just going to go out there and talk about what they've heard. This space is confidential and private. So if your child is going out to talk to a professional, you're not going to be hearing the stories outside or anywhere else.
I fought to change GPs because I wasn't getting any help at all. And in August of 2020, I changed GPs and saw a female GP, and she referred me to adult mental health services immediately. And it's literally only since then that's when I actually started getting the proper help. So then fast forward to November 2020, I spoke to a therapist for the first time. And from then on, I eventually got a social worker and another therapist who I've been with for just over a year now. And unfortunately, all that had to happen because intervention is better than prevention, and prevention is better than solution. And unfortunately, it took 3 to 4 suicide attempts before I could get any help, because I was seen as a strong Black woman and was seen as capable to get through life. And they didn't understand that I never had support growing up that affected my mental health up to this stage.
Yeah, I suffer with mental health. I suffer with mental health issues, yes. And I have. And I have for a long time as a child, and I didn't even really know it because I was just trying to fit in all of the time. But as I've gotten older, I'm okay with that. I can accept that, and it's not my fault. I have had to battle my whole life along with loads of other people. And it's okay to talk about it, and it's important to talk about it, and I know that. And it might make me seem weak to somebody watching this, but I actually don't care what you think. I know my strength, and there's strength and power in the words that I say, and I hope that I help other people to speak about that too, because like I've always said, when you seek help, it shows your strength, not your weakness. 100%. And when you speak about it, it shows your strength, not your weakness. And if you're that person that sits there and watches something and says, that person's weak, or judges somebody, you need to look in the mirror. And not in a bad way, but take a second, take a step back, you know, because people don't talk about trauma because they want to. People don't say that they suffer with mental health issues because they want to. Who am I to tell my son that his hair looks deadly if I can't embrace my own hair, you know? Things like that. Like, he has said to me, he's 7, and he has said to me, I wish that I had hair like my friends that blows in the wind. And he's never going to have that. And I've said to him, I've sat him down, I'm going to be real with you, Kai, because you're never going to have that. And I don't want you to spend the rest of your life seeking that the way I did. Because I'm never going to have that type of hair. Yes, I'll do extensions, I'll put products in there, I'll burn my hair to pieces to try and get straight hair and have this European standard of beauty, like, but at the end of the day, like, this is my hair, this is me, this is who I am. And I wish I had somebody when I was younger and say to me, you know, this is who you are, love that, accept that.
But I do think that because it's more of a global kind of world now, and there's more traveling and there's more openness, that people are kind of becoming more open about it.
The moment you stop doing what you love, you're only going to go into a spiral, and a downward spiral. So I just feel like keep doing what you love, keep doing what you do, and by the grace of God, you'll overcome whatever it is you're going through.
What I've learned personally is, like, yoga really helps, because it activates your, like, vagal nerve. So in terms of stress, that's really good. I also think conversations with people who you trust, who are authentic, who are loving, who've got your best interests at heart, just open discourse, even if it's uncomfortable, because sometimes it is. I think also what's really important is context. So for example, a stressor for me might be having a couple of overlapping pencils. And a pencil is when somebody might book you for a job, but they haven't confirmed. So say if you've got 3 of those overlapping, that used to stress me out a lot. But I think it's just the context is within the industry, this is something that happens all the time. And actually, people who are booking you know you can have multiple pencils. So it's not something that you need to stress about. So I think reason really helps.
Speak to the circle around you, speak to your family, seek refuge, just open up your mind, and you can't take things on your own. You need a collective of people to help you to get you whatever it is you are going through.
I am really aware of the anxiety that I experience in a lot of situations. Sometimes just leaving home can be quite an anxious experience for me. And when I say anxious, it's not crippling, but I'm aware of the feeling that I have going on inside of me, or going to do something I've never done before, or having to give a talk, having to go to a workshop, or, you know, I can experience that. And what I do is, first of all, be aware. I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm not anxious, you know, I should know better. No, I am feeling what it is that I'm feeling, I acknowledge it, and then I support myself. So I could take a whole day or a whole weekend of doing absolutely nothing. And I trained and allowed myself to get to that point where there's no shame, there's no self-judgment around taking time off and really taking care of myself, because if I don't take care of myself, no one is going to do it. So my mental health is really my priority, because I know that my physical health, I can tell when something isn't right. I go for walks, I take care of all of that. But sometimes taking care of my mental health is so easy, and that's why we overlook it, or we don't realize how we can miss out on not caring for our mental health. And it's the simple things. But once the simple things pile up, then it becomes a big issue.
Sometimes some people feel like you're alone in a world like this. So if you're a young Black person, I think it's okay to just be yourself, I suppose.
And I think gratitude has changed me the most, because step by step, as you learn to manage, your stressors, your anxiety, and as you are having people in your life who are more and more authentic and open, you cultivate a sense of gratitude about everything. And also, I actually think doing what I love really helps, because ultimately acting has helped me to grow beyond my limitations so many times.
Take care of your mental health. Take care of your inner space, because that's really where you are and that's all you've got. And if you can do that, then you can always bounce back. We're talking about resilience. We're talking about striving. We're talking about breaking, areas and avenues where some of us haven't been to. For us to do that, we need to be truly steady and strong within ourselves. And for us to do that, we cannot afford to not take care of our mental health. It's too much of a price to pay, because we eat good food, we exercise, but then we have beliefs that are holding us back. We have thoughts that are keeping us fearful. We are raising our children in fear. We're raising our children in insecurity. We're teaching our children how to be insecure and how to be fearful. They cannot excel if they are buying beliefs that they are not good enough. So it's up to us. First of all, do the work on yourself. If you are good enough, then you can show your children. It's not about talking about it. You can show your children what it means to excel. And we can role model excelling, but it only comes when we acknowledge all aspects of ourselves: spiritual, physical, and mental.